So I just came back from Uzbekistan, family trip with the family, obviously, um, and I wanted to make a video reflecting on that trip. First of all, I want to make more of these videos just to practice speech and speaking and um, bringing together kind of the thoughts that I have into actual, words. Basically, work on my eloquence and all that stuff. And so the way I'm probably going to split up this video is that the first half is going to talk about Uzbekistan as a country, the society, what I learned from the people there, the history and everything. And then the second part will be what I learned about myself and my family dynamics and all that stuff, and lessons going forward. By the way, the Champions League final is happening right now and I have it up. So that's why I keep looking up. But anyways, let's lock in. So just came back from Uzbekistan. We spent 6 days there, I want to say. We went to Tashkent, Samarkand, Bukhara. And I'll be honest, I had a lot of fun. Like, I genuinely enjoyed the country a lot. It was my first time going to the stands, the Central Asia area. And it's definitely not going to be my last, inshallah. I want to go to like all the other countries in Central Asia. But I definitely learned a lot about the country itself. And I'm constantly reflecting on, as an Egyptian, obviously I go to Egypt basically every summer. I'm kind of looking at Egyptian society, how it can improve, what the future is looking like. And we're kind of fed this notion as Egyptians that we're like the greatest society. We're the oldest, the most historic, which isn't even true. The Babylonians are older than us. We're taught that we're like the best, the smartest. And then you kind of travel and you see that all of that is pretty much BS. Like, there's a lot of societies that just have better traits in general. One of the things that I really appreciated about the Uzbeks is how hospitable they are and how much they take care of the country itself, despite it being a developing third world country. Like, they're poor. Like, if you look at how cheap it is and their GDP per capita and all that nonsense, they're genuinely like economically poor. And despite that, the cities are extremely clean. The people take care of everything. And I'll give you a couple of examples. My sister's collecting these bottle caps for like a donation. I don't know the details, right? But I saw a bottle cap on the floor, right? And just reflect on that. The fact that I even noticed a bottle cap on the floor tells you that it was basically the only piece of trash there was, which is why I noticed it in the first place. And there was like a guy approaching. He was Uzbek, a bit older. He was like approaching this way. And it looked like he was like going towards it as well, but I just kind of ignored him. My sister was behind me, so I call out to her and I kick it towards her. I'm like, yo, bottle cap. In hindsight, I should just picked it up and gave it to her, but I was joking around with her, so I just kicked it towards her. And then the guy didn't understand, so I actually went up. I think she picked it up, and I told him, because he looked like he was about to pick it up, but she picked it up first, and he looked angry. And I told him, oh, no, I wasn't just kicking it, like she collects them, whatever. I think he understood. But the idea is, he saw that there was trash on the floor, and as like a freaking citizen or whatever of the country, even though it wasn't his trash, he wanted to pick it up. And that's just an example of how clean the cities were and the country itself. Other examples of how hospitable they were, we prayed the Eids, and on the way back from the prayer, we went past the bakery that sold something called somsa or samsa, which is an incredible pastry. It's like stuffed with meat and onions, and it tastes incredible. So I was like, I need to get one. It was like 6 a.m. or whatever. I was like, let me just get one. So I walk into the bakery. They don't even speak a lick of English, right? So I'm using Google Translate. So I'm like, can I just get one samsa or whatever? He's like, sure. Then there's this other guy there who's also Uzbek. And I could, obviously I don't understand what they're saying, but I could tell what happened, which is he's telling him, oh no, give him one more on me. Just because they realize I'm a tourist or whatever, or a foreigner. He's like, yeah, give him one more on me. And I'm like, no, like you don't have to do this, whatever. He insisted, so I'm like, okay, thank you so much. And that's just an example. Another example was the hotel in Bukhara. We took a taxi from the hotel to the airport. We were having trouble ordering the taxi just because it was like difficult to get to, whatever. So the woman ordered it for us. And like there you just order and you pay cash, right? But then she ordered the taxi, and as soon as it came, she said, oh, don't pay for it, by the way. I already paid. And then my dad's like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, I already paid. Like, I paid with my card, so just, you don't have to worry about it. This is the owner, not the owner, the receptionist of the hotel that we stayed at. She had no reason to do that whatsoever. We were literally leaving the city. We're leaving the country. She's not going to ever see us again, but she still did that like out of the kindness of her heart or whatever. And it shows you how hospitable they are. Sorry, the coffee machine just decided to clean itself. And I'm comparing to like Egypt, where it's the complete opposite. They try to rinse the tourists as much as they possibly can. And like, why can't we be like them? There's no reason whatsoever. We literally have the same religion, right? That also teaches us like to be hospitable and kind and all that stuff. And yet we're known as like the biggest scammers in the world when it comes to tourists. Like, obviously it's easy to point fingers and whatever. There's more nuance, but there's definitely lessons to be learned. And I wish everyone could travel just to kind of see how much better you could be when you kind of take lessons from all these different societies. So yeah, they're very well mannered. They're very clean. Very, very hospitable as well. And kind of moreover in terms of the history and everything. I was kind of reflecting on this a lot, which is like Uzbekistan. Obviously, Uzbekistan, it wasn't like a country called Uzbekistan, right? It had a couple of major cities. I'd probably say mostly Bukhara and Samarkand, but also Khiva, which we didn't end up going to. But there was a lot of heavy names, a lot of big names that came out of these cities. Obviously, the most notable is Imam Bukhari, literally the author of like the second most important book in Islam after the Quran. And then there's also other muhaddithin, like I think Imam al-Tirmidhi or something was one of them. And then other than that, just great kind of historians. And Ibn Sina, like whatever your opinion is of him, he's genuinely a big name. He was from that area as well. I think Al-Khawarizmi, he was from that area. Some guy we learned about was, I think his name was Ulig Beg or something, and he was a very respected astronomer. And so there's a lot of big names that came out of this region. And so to kind of reflect on it, this was a region that prioritized knowledge above everything. You kind of see everything there, and most of the kind of the stuff that you see there, the landmarks and everything. Sure, there's like mosques and whatever, but the majority of the stuff you were seeing were madrasas, centers of knowledge. That's what they prioritized. Whenever a society would come and kind of, I don't really know how to phrase this, but the Islamic empires, whichever ones ruled Uzbekistan over the past 1,000 years or so, they prioritize knowledge, and in turn, a lot of big names basically put Uzbekistan on the map. We wouldn't have visited if it wasn't for the big names that came out of it and kind of the historical landmarks and all that. So I'm kind of reflecting more and more about like how important knowledge was really, and the system that they had. And from a young as well, they were teaching these kids to kind of show you the madrasa, how they were teaching the kids from when they were young, and the different big names and how young they were when they like memorized the Quran and then became muhaddithin and all that stuff. So quick reflections about Uzbekistan itself. I'm kind of doing this on the top of my head. No agenda, nothing. Just to again practice speech, and also make sure that I have something to go back to. Whenever I want to remember the trip in 5 years, 10 years, this is basically my live reaction of the trip. Okay, so that was the first part, which is Uzbekistan itself. The second part I wanted to reflect at is what it taught me about myself and also my family dynamics. This is not going to be like a gossip session where I just talk about my family. This is going to be just reflecting over the trip itself and what it taught me. Stuff that I already knew, but it kind of consolidated. And the most important part is that I don't know how to make this not sound kind of like whatever. I'm just going to say, like, I'm genuinely different to my family. Like, the stuff that I look for, the way I live my life, obviously, the stuff that I look for, my goals, my motivations, all that stuff, I'm vastly different compared to, like, my immediate family. And that was seriously reflected in the trip itself. Over the past 10 years or so, we've taken a couple of different trips, whether it's in Egypt or even outside. And it was mostly me just taking the backseat and just going with the flow, right? Because I knew that like they wanted to do something, so I just went along with it. Whether it was going to Turkey, obviously I really enjoyed Turkey, but the stuff that we did there wouldn't be the stuff that I would necessarily do if I went to Turkey with my friends or alone. Same thing with us going to Sahel for a couple times, for example. Like, I'll be honest, every time I go to Sahel, it's the most boring week of my life. Just because it's the same thing every day. You go to the beach in the morning, come back, shower, go eat at night, and then chill at a cafe or whatever. And it's repetitive and it's boring in my opinion. But I just go with the flow because it's my family and they wanted to do it, so whatever. And then when I finished the year and I came to Dubai, They told me that we actually have a week break because of Eid, which usually doesn't happen. They usually just give you a couple of days, but because Eid was right in the middle, they just gave the whole week off, which means we have like a whole week to either rot in Dubai or actually go out and go on a trip. So they had a couple different ideas. My sister wanted to go to Sri Lanka. That ended up not happening for whatever reason. It just fell through, and then a couple of days later, I suggested Uzbekistan. Oh, come on. Sorry, I just want PSG to score. But I suggested Uzbekistan, and my mom was on board because she just wanted to travel. And like the type of person that I am is that when I decide on something, bro, I'm very fast with just like an action plan. Like I cooked up an action plan just like that: the flights, the train, everything, the cities that we're gonna visit, all the logistics, whatever. And so literally within a couple of days, like the flights were booked, and the trains and all that were kind of figured out. Now that was an issue because my sister and my dad weren't necessarily fully on board from the get-go, and it kind of happened too fast for them to actually veto it, or not really veto it, but kind of voice their opinion in a more robust way, I guess. Oh, is it a penalty? I think it might be a penalty. Let me take a quick break and see what happened. I thought this would be good, by the way, but it sucks. I usually get their sour cherry drink, which is incredible, and I thought their orange would be pretty nice because they didn't have the cherry. It doesn't taste nice. But I'm still gonna finish it because they sweeten it with stevia, so it's basically water. Oh, that's a pen, bro. Mascara, bro. That guy sucks. That was a weird tackle. Anyways, back to gossiping about my family. I'm not actually gossiping. I'm just reflecting. And so what had happened is that because certain family members weren't necessarily on board the whole time, you kind of saw it whenever something didn't necessarily go the right way, or something was like lacking. For example, we landed in Tashkent, and the first night was in Tashkent. But there's let's be honest, there's nothing to do in Tashkent. It's a normal capital city. It's a nice city, obviously, but you wouldn't go out your way to fly to Tashkent just to see it. There's really nothing there. Compared to obviously Dubai or Cairo, why would I go to Tashkent when I can just stay here? And so their first impression of Uzbekistan was just they didn't really see anything. We went to eat, and then we were just going around the city trying to find something to do. We couldn't really find anything. And that also taught me another lesson, which I already knew, but kind of consolidated it and reinforced it, which is first impressions matter a lot. First impressions really, really matter. If I plan a trip in the future for whatever reason with my family, I'm going to try to make it so that the first day it's just incredible, and so it kind of sets the scene for the rest of the trip, as opposed to the opposite where you've now set a really low bar, and then you have to resist and fight against the current to convince everyone else that, oh no, this place is actually nice. Anyways, that was a tangent. So I'm fundamentally different in terms of what I look for and all that stuff. And what I realize is that when I travel, I'm trying to travel to genuinely explore a different culture. I'm trying to pull myself, outside my comfort zone and meet new people, learn from the city that I'm in, and that's fine. That's traveling. But for them, they're already uncomfortable. A lot of their they work a lot. For example, obviously I work as well, but if you kind of compare just the raw hours, my family works more than me, and so they just want to break. They want to relax, which makes sense why they want to go to Sahel for 5 days and do literally nothing. They just want to relax. I'm gonna have to watch this penalty. Oh, nice. Okay, PSG scored. It's 1-1. They want to relax. They want comfort. they don't want to go to a random hotel. The third hotel we went to was it was not great. Very cramped. But to be honest, I didn't really mind, just because it had AC and it had hot water, and it was right in the middle of the city. We literally were a 5-minute walk from the biggest landmark in the city, and that's very valuable. But my family was against that, just because they wanted something better. They wanted something more luxurious, for example, not really luxurious, but comfortable. They wanted comfort. For them, they wanted to go out and disconnect and take a break. Well, on the other hand, I wanted to travel and, explore different cultures. So basically, just to reflect and kind of remind myself in the future, if I'm going to plan a trip for my family in the future, it's going to have to be something all inclusive. It's going to have to be something very comfortable, something where they're taken care of as opposed to, they have to go out there and explore the city and all that stuff. And that's fine. Again, like, this is not me versus them. This is just, okay, I'm this way. This is what I look for, and this is what they look for. I failed to take that into account, and I'm now taking accountability for that, putting and reminding myself that in the future, plan accordingly to the people that you're traveling with, as opposed to what exactly you want. Even if they don't do that in return, that's fine. Like, I'll be fine. If they want to go to Sahel, like, I'll go to Sahel for 5 days. I'll just firm it. Like, it's not that serious. Something I want to go to office crazy. Anyways, I think that's basically all I wanted to talk about. Trying to think. I'm now trying to think, like, if I want to do one of these trips again, should I go on my own? Because I've thought about solo traveling. I'm thinking about going to Salalah on my own, Oman. But it's so much better with someone there. But if I don't have, like, a friend to go with, for example, do I just go on my own, or do I just wait for a friend? That's a question I need to answer. I need to reflect on. But yeah, other than that, Uzbekistan is incredible. If there's anyone watching this, I'd recommend that you go. The landmarks that you could see there, especially if you're a Muslim and you're looking at Muslim history and how great we used to be. This is something I forgot to talk about as well. A constant thought in my head was, like, Central Asia was genuinely, like, an incredible place. And the Soviet Union really had its mark on it. Like, the Soviet Union, Islamically, like, it devastated Central Asia. And, like, they're religious, bro. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like they aren't. It's not like we were coming across seculars the whole time and, like, atheists, whatever. Like, there were religious people. The taxi driver was asking me, "Oh, you guys are Muslim? You guys pray?" What? I don't know why he asked me. That was a bit random, but and, like, I went to Salat al-Eid there, and it was packed. But, like, I'm trying to think, like, obviously I don't want to think about, like, imagine this didn't happen, because, like, that's just not how it works, right? It's all qadr at the end of the day. But, like, imagine the potential that these countries have despite the Soviet Union. That's just a thought that I kind of need to work on more on my own before I, like, I don't know, present it in a video like this. But yeah, I don't want to drag this on too long. I've been talking for 18 flipping minutes. Kind of reflections from Uzbekistan. Going forward, plan the trip accordingly, according to the people that are going with you, as opposed to exactly what you want. Basically, be a leader and sacrifice your desires for other people, right? That's basically what being a leader is at that point. And then second, I had something in mind, but I forgot. Oh yeah, first impressions really matter. First and last impressions. If you plan a trip, make the first, like, 2 days and the last, like, 2 days just incredible. And then anything in the middle could just go. But yeah, that's it.